Arie Afriansyah is a lecturer in law at the University of Indonesia. He argues that Indonesia's death penalty sends a strong message to would-be drug traffickers. But is that message actually getting through? He joined me a short time ago from Jakarta. Arie Afriansyah, welcome to Lateline.
Yes, thank you very much.
Now, 9 convicted drug smugglers will likely face a firing squad tonight in Indonesia. In Australia, our hearts are aching for the 2 Australians among them. What's your view?
Well, firstly, I would like to quote what our foreign minister said, that in executing death penalty, it's always been very difficult for us. However, it's a matter of how we need to enforce our legal system. And we also respect other countries' rights to have legal aid for their citizens abroad, which have legal problems. And as far as I know, these 9 that will be executed, I don't know when, some say it's going to be tonight, all of them had exhausted their appeals until the asking for the clemency from the president. And the thing that I would like to stress is that this kind of execution is not only for foreigners. I heard a lot about discriminatory against the foreigners of the death execution. However, if a person committed drugs offense as a drug dealer in Indonesia, whenever it's found guilty and it already exhausted all of the appeals and it was refused by the president for the clemency, then it is the duty of the Attorney General to execute what is the punishment.
Where is the evidence that executing people will in any way make a difference to the drug problem in Indonesia?
Well, there is so much debate on that. And I think what the government of Indonesia is doing right now is that they try to all efforts. First, they need to lower down the demand of the drug itself, and also the government needs to crack down all of the smugglers or the producer of the drugs coming into Indonesia. And the message that the government wish to send to every people, that please don't bring the drugs to Indonesia. That's the message.
It's hard to see there's any evidence that the death penalty provides a deterrent effect when it comes to drug trafficking. And we can simply point to Singapore and Malaysia. When they were executing heavily for drug crimes there, drug use in both those countries actually rose comparative to Indonesia, where there were no executions. How do you explain that?
Well, it is best not, I don't know, in my personal opinion, the price of the drug itself, I think it would not be the main concern. The main concern is that the consumption or the abuse of the drug, because the data that I just had from the narcotic agency, that many people have died every month or every year, like thousands, and then many millions that are already addicted without a little chance of being rehabilitated. And the Indonesian government now shifting their policy that the drug user, for the first time, they will not be sent to prison. Only for those who do the dealers, the producing the drugs, will be prosecuted.
I think we're arguing different points here. Let me put this to you. Jeffrey Fagan, a professor of law at Columbia University in the United States, says even when executions are frequent and well publicised, there are no observable changes in drug crime. Executions serve only to satisfy the urge for revenge.
Well, the thing is that, well, you can argue about the effectiveness of the death penalty. However, what the government wish to send the message, like you just have stated before, is that we are in very serious situation in dealing with the drug abuse. And then one of the things that the government need to do in firm way is that to execute those who are found guilty in drug dealings.
How do you explain your president's double standard when it comes to capital punishment? Jokowi has been working very hard to save Indonesian drug smugglers from execution in overseas countries.
Yes, yes. It is the duty or the obligation of every state that to protect its citizens abroad that have legal problems, same as like Australian government trying to save their citizens in Indonesia, giving legal aids and accompany with the court proceedings and so on. We do our representatives in abroad giving legal aids, for example, like our laborers in, for example, in Saudi Arabia.
The point, of course, is that the appeals have not been exhausted in the case of Andrew Chan and Myron Sukumaran. There is an outstanding case to be heard in the Constitutional Court, and there are also outstanding allegations of corruption, serious corruption allegations against the Indonesian judiciary.
Okay. About the hearings in the Constitutional Court, it's about the judicial review on the law on clemency, of the presidential clemency. And as far as I understand, this kind of review will only non-retrospective decision. And this is only the area of the law itself, not for the punishment. So whatever the decision of the court will not be some way or somewhat be changed from the capital punishment into the life sentence, for example.
As I understand it, the decision to not allow the decision of the Constitutional Court to be applied retrospectively was made by the President. And indeed, it challenges whether he applied the protocols around granting clemency correctly. And it does specifically relate to this case because the argument is that he didn't consider the individual circumstances of these two Australian men. Instead, he put all 9 together and said all drug traffickers should be executed regardless of individual circumstances.
Well, I'm not quite sure about the real situation when President Jokowi considering all the clemency appeals. However, I do believe that he and probably his cabinets will consider this for very cautious.
Finally, you did talk about Indonesia's rights to carry out its own legal system as it sees fit. And yet there is state sovereignty, and then there's accepted international norms of behaviour. And Indonesia has been condemned by the United Nations. In fact, the UN Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial Executions, Christoph Heinz, notes that Indonesia is a signatory to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and its use of the death penalty for drug offences is in violation of international human rights standards.
Yes. Okay, first thing is the state sovereignty is non-negotiable, and the allegation of violation for international law, and maybe as you referring to the ICCPR and Article 6, where the right of life is non-derogable rights. However, in the paragraph 2, it says also, for those states that haven't abolished the death penalty, it may be imposed in the kind of the most serious crime when it's conducted when the law enacted. And the debate of the most serious crime itself, I've read the decision or the verbatim record of the Constitutional Court of Indonesia when they have a judicial review on the law on narcotics of the death penalty. One of the experts says that who is have the authority to decide the most serious crime in imposing the death penalty, and it is said, and he said that it is the government of the country that have the authority to decide the level of serious of the crime.
So it doesn't matter that the UN Secretary General believes the most serious crime should just be murder?
About the UN, about the UN, I think in this moment it would be a good opportunity to have, if we wish to have the similar standard in abolishing or in condemning, as you said, the execution of death penalty. I think we also need to push or press other countries that has death penalty as well, as hard as, for example, French, Australia, and other states pushing or pressing Indonesia in changing its laws in death penalty.
Arie Afriansyah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.